Welcome back, everybody, to week 6 of season 5 of the Eternal Tournament series. We are in round 6, the final round of Swiss. We've got an exciting matchup for you, again, as always. But before we talk about that, I just wanted to update everybody on the bracket. We have Moosh, who we saw on Big Combre just a moment ago, advancing to top 8 because he's 5-0 guaranteed, as well as Jade Phoenix on, I believe, Firetime Justice mid-range. Also advancing to top 8. And we're going to be watching a 4-1 matchup. I am Calimdir, also known as Gabe, and I'm joined by my co-caster, LocoPojo.
Hey guys, we got a good matchup for you today. We're not going to be watching the 2-5-1s duke it out since they're both guaranteed. Instead, we are looking at a 4-2 Unearthly's Rakano plate versus Komodo's FTJ midrange. And the winner of this one is definitely going to advance, so we will be seeing them duke it out for a potential spot in the top 8.
Yeah, and the loser of this match is not out of contention. They just have to make it on tiebreaker points, so we'll see.
Yep, it's gonna be a tricky round. Komodo's FTJ midrange is something we've seen a similar vein to before. We've got the two Akaris, we've got the Heart Revolts, Shatterglass Mage and Reality Warden are both one-ofs in this deck, and then there's a one-of Diogo Malaga as well. But most of this is running like some of the early Combre stuff, Great Parliament and Sandstorm Titan in the deck, and of course you have the Rise to the Challenge. This is a really interesting deck, and Unearthly playing, of course, his classic Rakano plate, 3 Deep Forge plates in this particular versions, and 1 Paladin Oathbook. All of the numbers tend to change a lot on Unearthly's list, but he's a very consistent player in terms of his overall value.
Yeah, I like this particular list just because it's got 4 Vanquishes. He's really focused on setting up that flyer and making sure it gets through. I mean, he's still got the ground plan of Rakano Outlaw, Champion of Glory, and Oni Ronin, and he's just doing general Rakano things. But I like the consistency in the more 4-ofs, and 4-of Silverwing, 4-of Vanquish.
Yep, this is a pretty solid deck. We're seeing, of course, the 4 Silverwings and the 4 Enforcers are the big flyers to bring those Deep Force plates and hammers across. Champion of Glory is always a really good target for it. And if you can get Rakano Outlaw with that Deep Forge plate, it's also a really solid deal. There's not a lot of units that don't love to have Deep Forge plate on them, and this deck is very, very good at just getting a lot of consistent value. So we'll see exactly how well it proceeds.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. Do we have opening hands? Yeah, we do. So we have turn 1 Oni Ronin for Unearthly. How do you feel about that?
Turn 1 Oni is always a strong play, and it looks like with Unearthly's hand, he is going to be able to play his turn 1 and his turn 2 plays out very easily. There is some risk to this hand because Diplomatic Seal only gets you 1 Justice, and if you don't get the double Justice, you don't have a turn 3 play. Missing beats on aggro can be very difficult if you're trying to get things set up, and Unearthly runs the risk of drawing a bunch of hammers and Deep Forge plates and not drawing power for the deck. But since he's guaranteed a good turn 1 and a good turn 2, he's going to keep hold of this hand, and we'll see him going first.
Yeah, so I think obviously you keep this hand just because it's a good turn 1 and 2 on the play. But Rakano is not quite like Stone Scar aggro or Skycrag, where you just look to get in some damage early and then burn them out regardless of what units you play after that or whether opponents play blockers. You need to keep the pressure up, keep curving out, keep drawing power and playing it so you can play your 4 drops because it generates value in the form of Warcry as the game goes on.
Yep, those war cries are a very significant part of the Rakano package. With Tinker Overseer coming down as the next unit, he's keeping the Finest Hour up as a potential play. And he has Valkyrie Enforcer if he draws the green. Unearthly at this point needs another power, but if he picks up a 2-drop, he's probably not going to be too unhappy with it.
Yeah, and the Finest Hour allows him to attack through this Combre Healer. So even though it's a little bit of a damper on his plan, it definitely doesn't stop him. The Harsh Rule, though, that's coming down in 2 turns absolutely will.
Yeah, that's a risky deal for him, and if he does not get enough damage off of the stuff that he's currently got on the board, then the Harsh Rule will be quite the blowout. Unearthly probably has to play whatever it is that he draws next turn. If he does, in fact, have some power issues next turn, that's actually going to be to his advantage, because it just means that he's not going to be playing his craziest units this turn, and instead will be dodging around the Harsh Rule.
So I think Unearthly, being the experienced player that he is just going to play this Finest Hour and pass. He is already in such a command. Oh, never mind. The torch. I forgot about that. Yeah, he might feel he needs to commit with the Tinker Overseer, but we'll find out in a
Yeah.
second.
He
Yeah. So
he absolutely does have to commit with the Tinker Overseer. He can't generate enough damage to really threaten Komodo. Like, Komodo is not actually forced to use the Harsh Rule until such time as the Tinker Overseer comes down. That means that he's going to lose his Seraph, but considering the amount of value that he gets out of it, oh, and we see the
yeah,
Vanquish coming down, so once again, Unearthly is left to basically set up the board and get a little bit better situation going. With a Shogun Scepter, he certainly has a decent amount of damage, but if there's a Desert Marshal in this mix, then that again doesn't look terribly good for him. He's gonna look at Shogun Sceptering the Oni Ronin, which diversifies it a little bit against Desert Marshal, but
yeah, and
it's
it
still
gets
a
him an
tough deal.
extra war cry. It gets him an extra war cry by being able to attack with the Oni Ronin. Komodo, both players playing this super well. Komodo playing the Seraph to make Unearthly have to put himself in a position where Harsh Rule is really dangerous. Unearthly committing the correct amount of things, but ultimately Harsh Rule and Vanquish just got a ton of value here. So Unearthly really on the back foot. Drawing the fourth power helps a bit, but we'll find out how that
Yeah,
plays out with this Heart of the Vault coming down next turn.
that fourth power is very important, especially since it allows him to cast Valkyrie Enforcer, which otherwise would mean that he's just going to get completely blown out by this Heart of the Vault. Now Unearthly has the option of playing Hammer of Might, dealing an additional 6 damage, and really starting to push on his opponent. This 6/6 is a card that absolutely has to be dealt with. It is lethal next turn, and Unearthly now has a lot of outs in terms of Deep Forge Plate on a big unit, or some kind of just big colossal victory scored off of his Oni Ronin. And if he can manage that, that's going to be pretty good for him. But Komodo's already into the point where he's feeling pretty stabilized. He's got the Heart of the Vault going and ready to rock and roll. Komodo might actually be even played defensively here, since the only big option is to...
He's got the torch, though, for this Oni Ronin, right?
Yeah, if he's got the torch for the Oni Ronin, then he doesn't have to worry about Deep Forge Plate. And that looks like it's going to be game for Unearthly. The 2 damage to the face plus the 6 there, that's going to be just way too much. Valkyrie Enforcer silences, but that is not enough.
Wow.
And Unearthly is down for the count.
Yeah, so Komodo needed that torch because that flyer would have been able to block Seraph. Komodo wouldn't have had lethal, and then Unearthly would have just killed him with the 6/6 flyer next turn. But that torch saved the day, and Komodo is up 1-0 versus Unearthly on Rakano Plate.
Yep, Unearthly looking at his sideboard, the Ruins obviously not coming in. He has the option of keeping Rebukes, which appear to be currently on the list. It's hard to say if he's going to hold on to them, but he passed over them on his first look at what it is that he wants to cut. So we could see some Rebukes in this deck. It's a pretty good way to get a little bit of extra aggro across. Soulfire Drakes also seem like a possible thing that could come in.
Yeah, so the cards I think he's looking at are Soulfire Drake, potentially Protect, potentially Oathbook, and potentially Rebuke. The Protect is nice just versus Harsh Rule, and Vanquish is good in any matchup where you lose a little bit of value off of Finest Hour. Paladin Oathbook is good, because it lets you not have to commit so many units to the board, and you don't get as blown out by Harsh Rule or Vanquish once again, because you still have the Paladin Oathbooks if you lose your unit. And then Soulfire Drake just being a really powerful flying threat. I think Rebuke comes in matches where I think it's supposed to be Vanquish 5 and 6. It's supposed to be Sandstorm Titan Answer, 9 and 10, if with Valkyrie Enforcer and the Vanquishes. That's what I think Rebuke is.
Unearthly is in fact cutting the Finest Hours from the deck, so it's actually Answers 5 and 6 here. He specifically wants to get rid of the big units whenever they come out, and just attack in with his normal units, not even worry about the Finest Hours, not going to get blown out by that unique trade where he Finest Hours and then gets torched to the face. That means that he's going to be able to play those Soulfire Drakes a lot more often, which means he's going to be in pretty good shape if he doesn't run afoul of too many Desert Marshals. If Desert Marshal hits a Soulfire Drake, that's going to be a very significant swing in terms of tempo.
How do you feel about the sideboard on the other side from Komodo's perspective?
From Komodo's perspective, there's a lot of possible things that can be coming in. We know that his list has not changed too much. He's running 2 Awakened students in addition to a lot of the other stuff. He's actually upped the number of Shatterglass mages to 2. And yeah, we're seeing like his list is looking pretty ready, but I don't think he's made a significant amount of changes. I see 1 Valkyrie Enforcer. I see the Seraphs as well. He's lowered the curve quite a bit. It's a little bit less Heart of the Vault heavy, a little bit less heavy on sort of the big finishers, and he's just keeping it low to the ground to outvalue Unearthly on the board.
Just looking at the sizes of the 2 sideboards is pretty nuts. Unearthly with a lot of 2s and 3s, and Komodo just full of 1 of a million different cards. But I mean, that kind of makes sense in a deck with Rise to the Challenge.
Yeah, Komodo's changes are actually fairly significant. He has cut every single copy of Heart of the Vault and every Icaria from the deck. There is nothing in his deck above 5 at this point. He's got Shatterglass Mages, he's got Reality Wardens, and those are the only 3 cards that are at 5, apart from Harsh Rules. He's looking to win this on Sandstorm Titans, on Great Parliaments, and on the back of his Rise to the Challenges and just general card selection.
Yes, I actually think both players have taken the correct approach here. Unearthly, we've seen him in an invitational previously. It might have been season 3 or 4, where he took this very anti-Combre focused Rakano list, and this is basically what his sideboard is. This full-on Oathbook Protect list that just focuses on trying to get past Sandstorm Titan as the main threat. And then Komodo realizing, correctly identifying he doesn't need a bunch of late game to beat Rakano. He just needs to stabilize and stop them from getting war cries. I just wanted to mention though, Komodo, I don't know if the stream can see it, but Komodo is using a new tool that some people have posted on Reddit and stuff, like a deck tracker thing, which is super cool for us because we get to see what cards are in his deck still.
Yep, there's a lot of stuff coming up. We've got, we can see exactly what's been played out and what hasn't. Of course, there's Tinker Overseer attacking for 4 here, and we have a Desert Marshal available for Komodo if he wants to play it. But with the Paladin Oathbook, that's actually like a really big deal. All of Unearthly's threats are going to be a lot tougher now, and that's going to be kind of an issue as far as keeping stuff away in terms of what it is that he wants to play out. He gets Knights Chancellor Seraph down. That's going to get him 5 damage on blocks, and Unearthly is not running any sort of Finest Hours anymore, so this is going to be an even trade for the Seraph.
Yeah. The downside of focusing on flyers is when you get on the ground, it's a lot worse, but the Oathbook lets him push past here.
Yeah, this is actually really rough. So like he would have offered an even trade to the Seraph, but one thing that's happening here is that while Unearthly has sided out his Finest Hours, Komodo does not know that they aren't there. So he chooses not to block here because the Finest Hour is such a blowout. And as a result, he's going to be pretty significantly down. Like this is going to be a really big deal for him. The Great Parliament offers him another big blocker. Torch kills the Champion of Chaos, which is also very nice. But he's in a lot of trouble here. His best option is to sort of block the 5/5 and then torch it, and that's not amazing. He can also play the Parliament and try and get like a really big blocker going. I don't think there's any particularly strong thing that he can do at this point.
Yeah, this could not get any more awkward for Komodo. So he if he doesn't torch the Champion, which he elects to do, I can see on his stream he's already done it, then the Champion can attack in, become a 4/4, be out of range of torch. But if he does torch it as he's done, now this Tinker Overseer is a 6/6, and the double block is no longer available to him.
Yeah, in addition, like because the Finest Hour is not a Finest Hour, but is actually a Protect, he's not going to get good value if he ever chooses to set up a block with Torch. Like he really needed to actually get the double block, and now that he doesn't have that option available to him, he's just going to get consistently threatened by this one Tinker Overseer until such time as he draws a Vanquish. Yeah,
so Justice's ability to play 2 different 1-drop or 1-power combat trick fast spells really paying off for Unearthly here. It's super difficult to play around from Komodo's perspective.
Yeah, Komodo attacking with his 3/7. He knows he's not going to be blocking, doing anything other than chump blocking this turn because, of course, a 7/7 on the board. And the Deepforge plate has been drawn for Unearthly. Unearthly might throw that Protect early just to get the 7/7 secure against any sort of removal. And if that happens, then he can Deepforge plate next turn and essentially push for the win. Komodo attacking for 5 here means that he's probably got a Harsh Rule or a Vanquish, though, so we'll see exactly which one it ends up being.
He just drew a Harsh Rule. I'm wondering why Unearthly elected to not play another unit, but I guess he was trying to read a Harsh Rule coming down. But now he's got double Oathbook, a 7/7, which is about to be maybe a 9/9 or an 8/8 if he only plays one, and then Protect. He's got Protect. Komodo's going to play Harsh Rule, wipe his own board, and then just be left facing down this giant Tigger Overseer.
Yeah, if Unearthly wants to, he can play the Oathbook. He's choosing not to at the moment, which means he might be not reading the Harsh Rule, despite the sort of like threatened attack that Komodo was making. Certainly this clears the board, and now he can Tinker Overseer. He's going to actually hold on to the other Oathbook to buff the Overseer and get a little bit of extra damage across. If he can get even one unit down with a Deep Forge Plate, that's definitely going to be game, but it's not going to happen this turn. However, Protect does stop the Harsh Rule, so baiting the Harsh Rule is definitely really, really good for him here.
Yeah, and if he draws a power here, that's just lethal. But I think actually playing the unit out was the play around Harsh Rule, because playing the unit out makes Komodo feel more comfortable playing the Harsh Rule. Whereas had he not played the unit out, Komodo might have just like played a Temple Scribe or something. I don't know if he. Let me check if he has Temple Scribe in the list.
He definitely wanted the Harsh Rule there. We see the Paladin Oathbook is going to buff the Tinker Overseer to an 11/11, which is going to be one short of lethal, but he'll get +1/+1 from the Oathbook being played, and then he'll get another plus both Oathbooks, which is just not quite enough, but it's so close. All right, so here we go. 10/10 swinging in. Oh,
yeah, he doesn't get the +1/+1 because it's silenced, but
fair enough.
That's why you play the other Tinker Overseer first for that interaction.
Yep. So from here we have Rebuke and Rakano Outlaw are both available options. I don't think Komodo has a good answer to this. Another Harsh Rule is the only way to get across, and at this point it's going to be Rebuke for the win, with a Protect as a kicker. That's real bad news.
Yeah, it doesn't even need the Rebuke. He's Unearthly would have just killed him had he attacked with the lone Tinker Overseer in the air, because it would have become a 5/5, and that puts them at 1-1, I believe.
Yep, that is gonna be 1-1, and now Unearthly has a chance to win back the game. Komodo's sort of low value plan, try to actually just stay underneath the Rakano deck and play a little bit more reliably, didn't work out very well for him. It turns out he just didn't end up hitting enough cards that were really good against the Rakano plan, and without the Heart of the Vaults to sort of stabilize and allow him to get a little bit more going on, it didn't end up working. We'll see if he wants to continue this strategy. It's not a bad strategy, to be certain. You often want to play against Rakano by cutting out your 6s and 7s. It was just pretty unlucky for him that he ended up essentially influence screwed, looking for the Temple Screws.
I mean, not only that, but it was just super difficult game to play through. Like, I there's no way I would have won that game. The torch, having to choose what target for that torch to go on, having to choose when to block, when not to block, having to play around Protect and Finest Hour. It's just Unearthly's deck is. Unearthly has been playing Rakano for a long time, and he knows exactly what sideboard he needs and what cards he needs to bring in to beat a deck like Komodo's. And Komodo doesn't know exactly what cards Unearthly's going to bring in.
Yeah, it's looking pretty interesting. So Unearthly's opening hand just found a Rakano banner, which is something that he really, really needed. He needed to have some sort of reliable influence here. He's going to be able to play Shogun Scepter now. He's got Protect and Champion of Glory. He's got a Vanquish. So he's got everything he needs to really get an early move on. And with Komodo playing down a Desert Marshal as his next opener, I'm not sure how well he's going to match up against Unearthly's next couple of plays. Unearthly really wants this Awakened Student dead, but there's no particular way to kill it right now beyond waiting for it to grow up so that he can vanquish it. He chooses to attack with just the Outlaw this turn and played on the Champion of Glory instead, which leaves him with...
That's fair. He wants to...
Yeah, it leaves him with Protect up, and that's really effective for him here. And it also gives him a better target for the Shogun Scepter later in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. He wants to widen his threats. So Komodo finally has the game where he has the Sandstorm Titan, but he doesn't have the 4th power this time, and Unearthly has the Vanquish. But I think this Awakened Student, being one of the best cards in the matchup, might give Komodo a fighting chance here, even if he is stuck on power for now. He does really need to draw the 4th power here, though. Otherwise, I'm not sure how he gets through. Hopefully Temple Scribe picks him up the power.
Unearthly with another valiant finest hour bluff. The block there with the 3/6 was totally reasonable, but Komodo has already proven that he's not going to take blocks like that if they give him the potential to actually lose the round. And with a Desert Marshal coming down, it's not going to work the second time. That's going to be dead Champion of Glory here.
Well, he's going to use the protect, though.
Point. If Komodo wants to triple block, that will kill the Champion of Glory. No, it will not, because the 5 damage can be distributed to the 2 units. So the only available block is with the 3/6.
And he doesn't. There's no window for Komodo to find out if Unearthly has another pause. So for all Komodo knows, there's another finest hour, and he lets it go. Unearthly has just snuck in 10 damage. That is not an insignificant amount.
Yeah, there's been a lot of good bluffing on Unearthly's part from his deck. Taking out the finest hours has proven extremely effective here just because the threat of them is still strong enough to really push. And unfortunately, Champion of Glory is going to go down to a 3/2 this turn. And
finally, good riddance.
All right, so we see a Rakano banner coming down for Unearthly. Unearthly is actually quite behind on board now. He needs to pick up his bigger weapons, either the Hammer of Might or he needs to pick up some very good flyers. Komodo, at this point, the strategy is working out very well for Komodo. He's stuck on 3 power, but he doesn't care at all.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to try and talk about there, is that Unearthly's got a ton of war cries sitting on the top of his deck. And what does it hit? Lo and behold, a Soulfire Drake, a premium Soulfire Drake. And yeah, sure, Komodo has been playing cards out because he hasn't been drawing power. But that's because he hasn't been drawing power, so he can't cast anything. But finally, the Sandstorm Titan comes out, but it's just going to get vanquished, and that leaves him dead.
The Soulfire Drake was the absolute best target that could have been hit, even better than, I think, Deep Forge Plate in this situation. And with a 9/6 swinging in twice, that's going to be a easy secure for Unearthly, and Unearthly goes 2-1 in the series.
That game was absolutely nuts. Unearthly had to sneak in that 10 damage to win that game there.
Well, he snuck in a full. I mean, he snuck all 28 of it. I don't think there was a single thing that didn't sort of just get by in the sneakiest way possible.
I don't know. So, yeah. I don't know. Soulfire Drake wasn't sneaky. It was just off the top, big bomb coming in. You can't stop me.
Right underneath the potential for fun police, of course, with your opponent stuck at 1, there was just all of these potential threats that could have actually prevented Unearthly from playing those cards. And he just relied on the strength of his threats and worked out very well. Just went straight on in it for aggression.
Yeah, and that's Unearthly moving into top 8. That's certainly not his first top 8. Unearthly being a veteran of weeklies and invitationals and other major tournaments. So it's nice to see another veteran make it into top 8.
Yep, gotta have that bar to clear. It's very important. We see that Rakano deck coming in, and basically it's gonna be up to every other top 8 deck to try and beat it. It's a very powerful archetype. It's a very powerful list, and it's something that you have to be prepared to run against. So we will see exactly what happens there.
Yeah, and I think Komodo and Unearthly are both on Team VPX for those following that the team scene. So that's interesting. And Komodo not out of the running for top 8, but his tiebreakers might be rough sitting at 4-2. I think how many 4-2s are we going to be getting? I'll ask the back end and we'll find out. But it's probably only 1 or 2.
It's going to be a pretty well set up game.
Excuse me. Komodo is on Team TMP, which has Angry Chicken on it. I was thinking of Shed and some other members on VPX.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's it for us for today, or not for today, but for the hour. We're going to be going into the top 8 pretty quick here. We might have one backup match, but it looks like we do not. So we will be seeing you guys in the next round.
Well, let's before we go to break, let's announce the guaranteed top 8. We have 5 players guaranteed to be top 8. So that is Jade Phoenix, who defeated Moosh, Moosh on Big Combre. I think Jade Phoenix on that FTJ deck that Moosh had already beaten, but that puts Jade Phoenix at 6-0, so he's number 1 seed going into top 8, followed by Moosh, who we saw on Big Combre, Paradox, who we saw on Praxis Midrange, and Unearthly on his Rakano list going in at 5-1, and then Komodo, who we have not seen, on an interesting take on a deck he's calling Armory, but is a little bit more like a Fire, Justice, Shadow mid-range deck that is looking to prey on these big Praxis time mid-range decks with a bunch of Statuary Maidens and Stewards of the Past.
Yeah, 4 different decks, a couple of similar cards between them, but very different styles, very different types of play. And we're seeing a lot of control here with Unearthly's Recano Plate stuck right in the middle. So we're going to see exactly what that ends up happening, how that ends up playing out, and it's going to be pretty cool. ECV has also secured another 5-1. So yeah, that's the FTJ control and should be looking good. So we will be seeing all of them plus 2 more in the top 8.
Yep, see ya in top 8.